Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Tats, and I just realized something as I was getting ready to record this video. Wow, I've already reviewed a couple of the Jekyll and Hyde adaptations before. I did the 1941 version with Spencer Tracy, and then I did the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll with from the Hammer box set. Yeah, something just occurred to me. It's like, I think like even though like I want to work, I want to review movies, from Boris Karloff and stuff right now. I think I might, kind of go like half and half. I might start like here. I've already got my review set up for May, but I think in probably about June. I think I'm gonna do two more adaptations of Jekyll and Hyde story. I think yeah, let's see. I'm thinking about for June. I think I'm my first random review is probably going to be Edge of Sanity with Anthony Perkins, and then the second one will probably be Jekyll and Hyde together again. So that sounds fun, So kind of mix it up a little bit, like do some Boris Karloff and then do some Jekyll and Hyde reviews. So I don't know. It's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm insane. So anyway, yeah, the movie that I'm talking about today is, I think you already know, from 1953. We were talking about Abbott and Costello meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Boris Karloff, the man, the myth, the legend, and sadly, yeah, he wasn't very fond of, if you listen to the commentary and everything on the film, he wasn't really fond of doing this movie. He wasn't really fond of the Abbott and Costello kind of slapsticky, humor of it and everything else. But I mean, from all reports, they said, like he was a trooper. He did what he needed to do. He was a good sport and everything. He put his work into it. So gotta appreciate him for that. It's like that to me is like the mark of a really good actor. Is like when you get a performer, man, woman, whatever, when you get a performer and they get material that like they're not passionate about, but they're like, what, still it's a job. It's part of the job. I knew, like I knew when I took this career path that, there were going to be roles that I was going to get that I'm not going to be proud of or something that I'm not going to be like super happy about or whatever, but I'm going to go in there. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to give it my, give it my best shot, go 100% and everything else. And, to me, that's way more impressive than, when I hear stories. Okay, like a good example is, I'm sorry, Jason and Glenn, if you guys watch this, okay, no disrespect. I know you guys do like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, but just, you guys have heard me rant on it before. Just, like um, when I watched so many interviews of people who were involved with that remake and they talked about how they had no passion for the material, they didn't care, they didn't want to do it. They like made it known that they didn't want to be there and that they weren't going to put any work into it and stuff like that. That's like when you watch the Elm Street remake, it's like it shows, just the performances in that movie. Like the only, like the only one who really like gives any kind of, it seems like he even cares, was Jackie Earl Haley. And and even though he's not going to measure up to Robert England, it's like honestly, like his performance is probably about the only really watchable one in the whole movie, except maybe for Kyle Gallner. But anyway, so but yeah, I just and I'm sure like if you go, you probably talk to Heather Langenkamp. I'm sure like when she got offered the job for the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm pretty sure, yeah, she probably would have, much rather been like in an Academy Award winning drama rather than Nightmare on Elm Street. But hey, she had the attitude of, it's a paying job. It could, get me into bigger and better things. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to give it my best shot. And, that's the thing. Like Heather Langenkamp, we love her and we remember her. And, everybody thinks she's amazing in, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Except for a couple of people I've seen you do YouTube videos where they talk about, oh, she's not a good actress. No, I strongly disagree with you. She's a great actress. Always was, always will be. But, you know, that's the thing. I mean, we all love Heather Langenkamp and we will always remember her fondly. Rooney Mara, not so much. But anyway, okay, I gotten off base. Let's get back onto this movie. So, yeah, even though like Boris Karloff wasn't too happy about it, he gave it his best shot, and he still he's so amazing to watch. He commands every scene that he's in, and he's just, he's brilliant. And the story. And one thing that really I liked about it that they mentioned in the commentary was that you know Karloff's portrayal of Dr. Jekyll in this movie is more faithful to the book. And I've forgotten about that, and it's like, wait a minute, yeah, actually, yeah, they're right. And I read the book of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They're right. His performance is more, um, or the way the character is written in his performance is much more how the character was conceived in the book, as in, as opposed to previous versions of the, you know, at a, of the story, because usually like Dr. Jekyll was always written as this very kind and very caring person. He wanted to help people, he wanted to save people, and this was to, he's creating this medicine to try to help people, keep from doing horrible things and everything else, and try to keep people from going over to their animalistic side and try to help people be more civilized and things like that. Whereas in the book and in Karloff's portrayal in the film, Dr. Jekyll he's a villain. He's not a good guy. In the it's like if you read the book and in this movie too, the thing about Dr. Jekyll is like Jekyll is somebody in the story. He is somebody who he cannot stand the idea of all these restrictions put on society, and the fact that he has to have this, he has to be so respectable, and he has to have this air about it. He has to act a certain way, talk a certain way, be a certain way. He has to always be Mr. Compassionate and everything else. Whereas like this is a man who really wants to get into his more animalistic side, his more perverse side, and he wants to be able to do the horrible things that he already knows is in his human nature and is in his what he wants to do, but in a way creating the potion to turn into Mr. Hyde is a way of him dealing with it. It is a way of him like, I can go out and do all these horrible things that I want to do, and I could still be this respectable person and everything. And whenever I do something horrible, all I do is I just turn around and I put the blame on Mr. Hyde. And Karloff plays it more that way, and so he does a great job in it. And so then we're introduced to our, obviously Abbott and Costello. We're introduced to our two main guys, and they play Slim and Tubby. And ironically enough, it's like, even though this isn't the first time Luke Costello played a character named Tubby in one of their movies, honestly, it's like, if I think this is probably one of the movies where like Luke Costello looks about as slim as I've ever seen him look. Like, it's one of his movies he looks most slim I've ever seen him. But anyway, so they play, that's their character, Slim and Tubby, and they're two cops, and they're going to they're trying to stop a riot at a rally where these women are protesting their right to vote. There's definitely some social commentary in this movie. And so, they're police officers. They're trying to stop the riot, and they end up. And that is a good question. There are some complaints about this movie, and it's like one of them is like, when they arrest the rioters, why did, Tubby and Slim, they're cops, and they're trying to stop the riot. Why did they get arrested too? It's like, it's like, yeah, you could kind of understand like they would get chewed out from their boss from not being able to contain the riot and stuff, and it got out of hand, but still. So that's one of the things. And then we're introduced to our love interest, one of the protesters. Her name is Vicky. And then you have a reporter named Bruce, and he's basically saying, like he wants to, yeah, he's in here saying like he really wants to do a story about the whole women's movement and women getting the right to vote and stuff like that. Really, what he just wants to get with Vicky. That's really his main thing. So they end up getting arrested, and they get bailed out of jail. And it turns out that Dr. Jekyll, Boris Karloff, he paid their bail, and the reason why is because he's in love with Vicky. and he wants to be with her. He wants to marry her. And but the thing is that Vicky and Bruce, they start to fall in love, and it's like they're literally like, I'm not even joking. That was another one of the complaints. It's like, my God, these two know each other for one day, and they're ready to get married. I'm not even joking. It's like, yeah, you watch the movie, in the continuity of the movie, it is like that. It's like they only know each other for one day, and it's like the very next day, like, oh, we're gonna get married. It's like, damn, did it happen? Did it really happen that fast back in those days? I mean, you think there'd be at least a little bit of a courting period, you would think. But so anyway, Dr. Jekyll, he gets mad and he decides he wants to turn into Mr. Hyde. One big difference, though, too, is usually in the other adaptations, it was always that Jekyll always drank a potion that got him to become Mr. Hyde. In this one, he injects himself with a serum, and that's what turns him into Mr. Hyde. And he decides he wants to become Mr. Hyde so he can kill Bruce so that he could have Vicky to himself. And so they find out that the monster, they call him the monster a lot in this movie. He's lurking about and everything. So they're chasing him around, and they get into and Slim and Tubby, they go into this museum. And there's so many callbacks. There's a lot of callbacks to Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. The opening shot in this movie is the same opening shot as Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. A lot of the music cues are from Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. There are so many Easter eggs in this movie, and that are definitely going to make you remember that film. But so anyway, Tubby, he manages to trap the monster inside the wax museum, but when he goes to get the other officers and everything to show him that he's got the monster and everything, excuse me, he turns back into Dr. Jekyll. And so, of course, he's disgraced. He's still kind of the butt of everybody's jokes and all this, and so they end up but Dr. Jekyll says he wants to pay Slim and Tubby to stay in his home one night because he's scared of the monster. He wants, police protection. And Slim is like, oh, hell yeah, we'll do this. Hey, it's like, we get to, this will make us look good. It's like, we're going to get paid for this. And, all we have to do is just, stay at this guy's house and all this kind of stuff. Tubby, not so much. He doesn't want to do it. And, he's got a bad feeling about Dr. Jekyll, and you can't blame him for that. So they go over to his house, and, he's, it turns out that, Jekyll is basically, his plan is to kill them, or at the very least kill Tubby, because he's like, Tubby knows my real life. He knows that I'm Hyde. He can, he can expose me and everything. So I got to get rid of him before, at the very least get rid of him, but probably go ahead and kill Slim too. And in this one, Hyde's got an assistant. So, there's, some kind of cat and mouse stuff going on. And at one point, they're in the, like Tubby, he's trying to convince Slim that, Jekyll is Hyde and everything else. And they're in his laboratory, and Tubby accidentally drinks this potion, and it turns him into a mouse. And that, I think, is one of the main fun things about this movie is that, you got a number of the Abbott and Costello movies where they meet the monsters, but it's actually kind of fun to have a movie where Lou Costello actually turns into a monster. That was fun. That was, one of the, there was a little bit at the very tail end of Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man where Lou Costello's character becomes invisible, but, it's like, it was kind of fun to actually see, it's like they met the monsters in all these movies, but to actually have one of them become a monster, that was a lot of fun. And so he turns into this, Tubby turns into this giant mouse, and they, it's like, okay, now, and when Slim sees it, it's like, okay, now we got to go talk, we got to bring attention to this guy Jekyll. There's something seriously wrong here. And so they're going, and then Karloff, his character, he's pretty much gaslighting everybody, and he's like, oh, you guys, you didn't see what you think you saw, and all this stuff. It's like, you guys are just so crazy, and all this stuff. Well, so, Bruce and Vicky are telling Jekyll that they want to get married, and so, Bruce is getting ready to leave, and so Jekyll gets Vicky alone, and that's when he confesses his love to her, and that he wants to marry her, and that, if she, decides she's going to marry, he's not going to have it. If she decides she's going to marry Bruce, that he's going to, he's going to go nuts and he's going to kill her, or he's going to kill Bruce and all this kind of stuff. And then she sees him turning into, Mr. Hyde, and she's like, "Oh my God, Tubby was right. You are Mr. Hyde," and everything else. And so, he's trying to abduct her, and then, Bruce goes in, and there's a bit of a scuffle. And then you get into this great scene because, when Bruce is fighting, Mr. Hyde, the needle gets, stuck on a couch, and Tubby falls on it. Tubby tries to help Bruce fight off, Mr. Hyde and everything, and Tubby falls on the needle and he gets injected. And so he becomes, so now you got two Mr. Hydes running around. It's supposed to be London. You got two Mr. Hydes running around London, and now there's this wild chase of comedy and suspense and everything at the end where they're trying to get the two Mr. Hydes and everything else. And of course, obviously, the one thing I was curious about at first was like, wow, did Boris Karloff, because he was 66 when he made this movie. Was Boris Karloff, did he actually don the makeup and play the monsters? Okay, no, he didn't. It was Eddie Parker, who he was a Hollywood stuntman for many, many years. He's played monsters. He played the Mummy in Abbott Costello Meet the Mummy. He's been a stuntman an actor and a performer for many, many years. And then there was I think it was Vic Parks who doubled for Lou Costello, which I kind of find it funny. It's like, yeah, I kind of get it, and everything, because Lou Costello was the actor and the star and stuff. But at the same time, you're kind of like, if you see, like, Lou Costello always did so many, like physical comedy. He always did all these pratfalls and falling down steps and everything else. So it's like, it's kind of like, Costello technically could have done a lot of his own stunts. But anyway, still, this movie, it's a great monster comedy. This is definitely, if you... honestly, if I had little kids, I would probably try to see if I could get them to watch this for two reasons. Number one, this would be a way I would try to see if I could get my kids interested in black and white films. This would be a great movie to do that with, and try to, and also too, it is like a good introduction to horror films for kids, or even, just people like, people, like, they're like, oh, I don't know about black and white movies and stuff like that. And, but it's like, you want to show them, hey, black and white movies, a lot of them are so beautifully done and they're so well shot and everything else, the set design and everything else, they look so gorgeous. There's a reason why people love the black and white aesthetic and everything. And so, for two reasons, like I would, if, I would try to like do this to try to get people interested in black and white movies. And I would try to, somebody who's like, they want to, like get into horror films, but they kind of want to start, really, really simple, kind of at, ground level and work their way up. This would be a good way to get them started on it, because it's not too scary and everything else. And there's a lot of humor involved and everything, but this movie is amazing. I love it. I watch it plenty of times, and I love the whole, like I said, I think that was kind of a very fun, interesting thing that they added into it, that Lou Costello ends up becoming a monster as well, and so like the two Dr. Jekylls and everything. But honestly, yeah, if you can see this movie, I definitely recommend it, if you haven't seen it already. But give it a shot. This is a great movie, a great way to get into black and white movies, a great way to get into horror films. If you wanting to get started on them, I definitely recommend, oh yeah, Abbott Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I can't recommend it enough. So that's it. Yeah, I think I've been going on just a little too long anyway, but yeah, there we go. So this was a lot of fun. I really enjoy talking about a lot of these movies. So that's it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, would you please leave it a like? And if you haven't already, could you go ahead and subscribe to the BodyBags channel? We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I am the Saturday reviewer. We have a lot of great guys. I'm really blessed to be in such good company. Everybody's doing great stuff. And yeah, we got more fun theme weeks and everything else. And like I said, now that I think about it, it's like, yeah, starting in June, I'm thinking about, going for some more Jekyll and Hyde movies. May as well. All right, now I got 3 of them under my belt, so why not keep going? So that's it, everybody. Take care. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.